Roth 401k versus Roth IRA. What's the difference? I'm going to break it down for you so simple and easy to understand. A Roth IRA is a retirement account that anyone who's working effectively in the United States can open. It's an account similar to a checking or savings account. When you put the money into the checking or savings account, do you get a tax deduction? No. That's money that you've worked for and you've put into your bank account. You're with me there. When you move money to a Roth IRA, it's the same thing. You're not getting a tax deduction, and it's not increasing your taxes either when you transfer money to a Roth IRA. I mean, think about it. When you move money between checking and savings, is that a taxable event? No. Just like when you move money between checking and a Roth or savings and a Roth, that is not a taxable event when you're funding a Roth IRA. The nice part about the Roth, compared with your bank account that's probably collecting dust or pennies in interest, is that the money in the Roth IRA can grow and be invested, and that growth can get tax-free treatment. You know that few pennies you're getting in interest, or maybe some of you have a high-yield savings account and you're getting a little bit more than a few pennies. Every penny of interest is potentially taxable to you in the year you earn it at your ordinary income tax rate. It's as if you went and made a little bit more money, right? And it's just whatever you're at, that's what you pay the taxes on. But in a Roth IRA, that growth is tax-free, hugely beneficial. Now, the kicker is you got to be working. So as long as you have earned income, you can make a contribution to a Roth IRA. Now, let me pause and say this. If you're covered by an employer-sponsored retirement plan, or your income's above a certain level, we may go a different direction, okay? But that's a conversation for another day. Just know that not everyone is eligible to make a direct or front door contribution to a Roth IRA. Your hands may be tied. But the big kicker is that it grows tax-free. The limits on a Roth IRA this year are $7,000. So as long as you have earned income of at least $7,000, you can put money into a Roth IRA, assuming your income is below the higher end of the threshold. So if you're making a little bit less, $200,000 or less, if you're married filing jointly, you really don't have anything to worry about. And in fact, the number's a little bit higher on the income range. But let's not get too far into the weeds there. Just know there are income limits on who's eligible, and the amount you can put into a Roth IRA is limited as well. That's because it's called a defined contribution plan, meaning the IRS defines exactly how much you can contribute. Now, a word. If you're above the age, if you're 50 or older, you can make an extra $1,000 contribution to a Roth IRA, which is pretty cool. We call it a catch-up contribution. With a Roth 401k, this is an employer-sponsored retirement plan, which means that your employer must offer it to you in order for you to be eligible to participate in the plan. So if your employer offers you a 401k, but maybe it's just a traditional 401k and they don't allow you to put money in on the Roth side, then you're out of luck. You can still potentially do a Roth IRA, but unfortunately, if you do contribute to a 401k, it's got to go in pre-tax. But now, somewhere between 7 or 8 out of 10 retirement plans that are sponsored by employers offer Roth accounts. So if you have a 401k, odds are they're going to allow you to make a Roth 401k contribution. The nice part about Roth 401k contributions is that the limits are significantly higher. In fact, it's roughly 3 times the amount that you could put into a Roth IRA. Roth 401k contribution limits this year stand at $23,500. That's pretty powerful when you think about that money growing and compounding tax-free for you into retirement. So big fan of the Roth 401k. And by the way, if we have a 403b or a 457 or another, maybe a thrift savings plan if you work for the government, it's very, very similar. When you put the money in, remember, it doesn't change anything from a tax position, just like if you're to move it from the bank. It's just now growing tax-free. Now, of course, if you put the money in pre-tax, you make a traditional contribution, that will reduce your taxable income this year. But just know that down the road in retirement, when you take the money out, you'll face the tax consequences and maybe some other external consequences like health insurance premiums going up or more of your Social Security being subject to tax down the road. So it's a trade-off, but that's the key difference between a Roth 401k and a Roth IRA. Roth IRA have income limits. So if you make above a certain amount, you can't contribute, whereas Roth 401ks do not. That's a huge difference. You can make effectively any amount of income and not have to worry about exceeding the limits for a Roth 401k. So let me give you the numbers here so you know. If you make more than $236,000 in income, then your Roth IRA starts to become phased out, which essentially means you can't make the full $7,000 contribution. And if you're single or head of household, it starts to get phased out at $150,000. It's similar for traditional IRAs. There are income limits on whether or not you're able to get a deduction, but that's a conversation for another day. I'm a huge fan of the Roth 401k and the Roth IRA. I like to get money into both every single year because I know the power of compounding growth. And when we layer on the tax-free treatment that gets, it just opens the windows of opportunity. Yeah, I have to pay the taxes on the money because I worked for it. Just like I have to pay the taxes on the money if I let it sit in my bank account or if I paid my mortgage off early. But now the money can grow tax-free, which for me is very, very compelling. Now, on Roth 401ks, we're going to dive just a little bit deeper. Not all Roth 401ks are created equal. Sometimes the investment choices stink, the fees are expensive, or there's testing requirements, and you may be considered a highly compensated employee, in which case, if the 401k plans fails testing requirements, which because they're governed not just by the Internal Revenue Code, but also by ERISA, which is employment law, they have additional rules that they need to follow. If you're considered highly compensated, you may not be able to even hit the maximum. Maybe the plan's just not designed well, and your hands are kind of tied on how much you can put into a Roth 401k. Those do exist, and they're out there. Now, I think the 401k plan should be adjusted to allow for that, and there's things that can be done. But unless you're the head of HR and the benefits team, then maybe you don't have a lot of decision-making power on how things go. The Roth IRA, you can invest whatever you want. A lot of options, a lot more flexibility. And the fact of the matter is that people typically change jobs a couple of times. And if you've got a couple old Roth 401ks or maybe even just regular 401ks from previous employers, you can, if you want, consolidate those 401ks into a single IRA. That can offer an enormous amount of benefits, and just you don't have to remember all those usernames and passwords and two-factor authentication. And sometimes people lose track of their money if it's been a number of years and who's managing it. Maybe your employer uses different financial firms to help with the plan. Moving your money from a 401k into an IRA is not for everyone. And certainly moving it from an IRA to a Roth IRA would generate a taxable event in most cases. So you want to be cautious before you do that. But just know that at the end of the day, a Roth 401k and a Roth IRA are very similar. Yeah, one has income restrictions, the other doesn't. Yeah, one you can put 3 times the amount into compared with the other. But when you boil it all down, they're almost the same thing. They're just accounts, not investments, but accounts that when you put money into, you can now invest within the account, and the account or the vehicle gets tax-free growth, assuming you hold on to it for the right amount of time, right? We're not putting the money in and trying to take it out within a few years. It's geared and designed for long-term retirement planning. And I'm a huge fan of both at the end of the day. My name is Rizek. I'm a financial advisor. I happen to be a CPA as well. If you enjoy this and you want to learn more, consider grabbing yourself a copy of my book, Finance on the Fly: Simple Strategies to Build Lasting Wealth. I know you'll find it an insightful, plain English guide to help you make smarter decisions today that will set yourself up for greater success long term.